goes to a point of criminality because the person cares a lot about themselves and has very little regard for other people. It leads to a life of crime or an act of crime. And then the third one, which is the one that is the hardest to recognize and the one we talk the least about, is the covert or vulnerable narcissist, which is the same thing. And they're not big with personality. They're usually very introverted, and they wonder why other people have things that they don't, and they should have all these things as well. They should have a better life than they do. So with covert narcissism, we often see depression. It often goes hand in hand. But it's very rare that you see it with these grandiose people who are very self-admiring and think that their life is so interesting. And in this case, we have someone we just saw who refuses to put a negative spin on his experience and keeps spinning it into this positive thing. Like, it's as interesting that he was in jail, that he is sitting in this mansion right now doing this interview because his life is interesting. He's this movie character that we should all be fascinated by. Then he actually says the sentence, "My life is incredible," with a lot of self-conviction, with this little smile throughout this entire segment.
That my life today is incredible.
Now, mind you, if this was 10 years ago, you could make the argument that, okay, some stuff happened since then that changes perspective on life. But again, this is very, very close to when he went to jail and that's it. That was the end of him. So, "My life is incredible" doesn't exactly line up with that. And then when Bannon asks him, "Would you consider yourself a stoic?" he goes, "No, I'm a hermit. Stoic isn't happy." You'll also notice that again and again, he puts an optimistic spin on negative things and just drowns it out with, "Oh no, it's not important that all these bad things were happening. Look at all these big important things that were happening as well." So we have all these things that don't necessarily align with someone who very shortly after this would have taken their own life. It's not impossible. Nothing is impossible. He could have had a really bad low moment. Also, you can make the argument that someone who's so grandiose and cares so much about his image and reputation, the fact that he maybe felt that this is it, he's not going to recover from this, he might spend the rest of his life in jail. It's possible that he hit a low. It could be. All I'm saying is that the behaviors that we're seeing here, typically, as a pattern, not a certainty, are very far from what we would see with someone who has ideations of self-harm. Now, the caveat
yes,
is this.
good boy.
I really wish we knew what this
Good boy.
is. If this is media training, if this is Bannon training him or coaching him on how to manage public perception, then it's possible that all these things did bother him. That he's not actually this happy, he's not this positive, but he's working really hard with Bannon to convey that. Because we're not seeing big stressing, we're not seeing him getting really nervous and defensive and saying, "Oh no, it didn't bother me," and we see signs that it does. There's little signs of stress here and there, but he's throughout this interview in a very straightforward way saying, "No, I wasn't bothered by that. Look at all these interesting things that I was doing." And it's not just in the way that he's making sure to say certain things, it's in his general demeanor. It's in the way that he spins the stories. It does seem legitimately like he has a very big sense. It seems legit.
But there's no questioning you that there is some animating life force within us that leaves when you're dead.
Yes, in fact, I refer to the soul. There's obviously a certain, the questions in the past, even
Because
during
people would normally think you were soulless. So
Thank you.
to have you talk about you actually believe in it and have done some thinking about it is pretty shocking in its own right, isn't it?
Well, again, mathematics, Leibniz thought.
So Newton was at Cambridge and he was the head of the math department, right? He's a professor, essentially. To Leibniz. Was Leibniz a German professor?
Yes, but what Leibniz said is the soul is so strange because God took chemicals, which is simply the material, like tables, and he somehow made this material able to have a thought.
This is a really good clip because it gives us more insight about the type of person that Epstein is in more than one place. So in my seminars on human behavior, I talk about the source of confidence and how if you identify the source of someone's confidence, it really allows you to communicate with them more effectively. And there are a lot of different things that could provide confidence to someone. For example, someone who's very health conscious and goes to the gym and eats well, the source of their confidence could be their physicality. For a guy like Epstein, we could tell in the way that he talks, and we saw it right here, the source of his confidence is his intellect and his knowledge. So very often in this interview, he's asked a simple question, And he gives a very long-winded answer with quotes and references, and he goes into other fields. He's being asked about finance. He keeps comparing it to the human body or to a car. Here, at some point, Bannon says that people would normally think that he's soulless. And you notice that he brushes it off. He goes, "Thank you," with this little grin. Very kind of muted reaction. And you'll notice in the beginning of this clip, he was very animated. The glasses came off. He's illustrating. At that point, he puts the glasses back and he goes into the steeple again. Not for very long, but I think what's happening here is he's in this high confidence place. He takes a little bit of a hit. He doesn't want to show it. He doesn't want to give the satisfaction
Papa.
of showing that it affected him.
Papa's out
He
there.
says, "Thank you," steeple, summons that
Buddy.
confidence, and then he goes to Leibniz. And he goes
Out
to this
there.
quote, and he goes to mathematically. So he goes to this information, right? Because that is his source of confidence.
You want
and
Papa?
He's balancing out this little hit that his ego took.
You want
He's
Papa?
brushing it off, and he's
You want
moving on
treat?
with information. Very good evidence that his confidence comes from his
You
intellect.
want your treat?
What percentage of people do you estimate, I understand the only problem is, do you estimate, would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say, everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them,
The
if I told them the devil,
100%.
the
Himself.
devil himself said, I'm gonna exchange some dollars
Do you- do you-
for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
Papa. Okay. All right.
No, I do.
Okay, buddy. Let's go say hi to Papa.
It's a serious question.
I'm sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?